Hello everyone, Jonathan here, and this video is a fan-requested one. We're going to be delving into Axis and Allies 1914 strategy without tournament rules. Now, just a quick disclaimer, I've been going through the rule book, but as many of you know, I'm much more familiar with tournament rules. In fact, I've only ever played using tournament rules, but based on how out-of-box rules are different and what I know of the game and different strategies and Axis and Allies in general, I am formulating for this video my thoughts on the sorts of strategies that I think will be effective. Now, before we get started, let's go over a few things that are different in this version, or in out-of-box versus tournament. One of the big things is movement. Instead of being able to move 2 spaces in most circumstances, you can only move 1. So units are going to be a lot slower to get around the board. And we'll get into that here in just a little bit as we start walking through strategy. Another thing is that sea ports, like up here, do not... they are mined, just like in tournament, but they do not stop sea movement. So England could come in here like this. They would have to go through 2 minefields, but they are not considered hostile zones. They do not stop movement. Another thing is that the US, over here, doesn't come in the war until turn 4, so it's a turn later than tournament rules. We still get tanks at the same time, but the U.S. doesn't come in the war until later. And there is no economic or political collapse in this rule set. Now, you may be wondering why I have some markers on the board. That is just so that those production centers, the capitals of all of the countries, really stick out during this video. One other thing, we do not have political or economic collapse. I know I just said that, but we do have an optional rule in the official rule book about the Russian Revolution. It's kind of convoluted, so I'm going to read the rules to you. There's kind of a little description at the beginning. The revolution will occur at the end of any Russian turn starting in round 4, so we've got a timing restriction. If Russia is losing the war, Russia will be considered to be losing the war if all of the following conditions are met. There are 3 or more territories adjacent to Moscow controlled by the Central Powers. So that could be, it's probably most likely going to be these 3, but it could be these 3, it could be these 3, but you've got to have 3. Or the Central Powers do. At least one other original Russian territory is controlled by the Central Powers or is contested. Well, on your march, it's probably going to be Poland. I mean, it could be another one, but you're moving to Moscow, it's probably going to be Poland. So you're likely to have this group right here. And this is the one that I think is a typo, Moscow is controlled by Russia or contested. So that means that if the Central Powers control Moscow, then this cannot be triggered at all. I think that's supposed to be Moscow is controlled by the Central Powers or contested. I'm not sure why Moscow being in Russian hands would cause the revolution to occur. If you have any thoughts on that, go ahead and post them in the comments. Maybe that is what was meant, but I think that that's a typo. So let's say we're the Central Powers and we don't want to trigger the revolution. We could go Poland, Belarus, Ukraine. We don't have 3 territories bordering Moscow, so we haven't triggered it. Then we take Moscow, get all of Russia's income, and now the revolution can't be triggered at all. Because even if we then later take Livonia up there, and we control 3 territories bordering Moscow plus another one, Moscow is not contested, nor is it in Russian hands, so it wouldn't trigger the revolution, which... yeah, that seems kind of strange to me. Now, if the revolution occurs, the imperial government is replaced with a republic. As a consequence of this, armistice is signed, removing Russia from the war in the game. All Russian units outside of original Russian territories or Russian-controlled territories are immediately removed from the board. Russia will no longer have a turn. Central powers may no longer attack Russian units or move into territories controlled by Russia. Central powers forces can move into or out of territories contested between them and Russia at any time. Russian units will not participate in any battles occurring in such territories. So maybe if like England has some forces up here somewhere, Germany can fight them. But as far as Russian units, like if England had units up here contesting a Russian territory, Germany could fight them. But Russia is not participating in any combat. Rule restricting land units, land unit movement out of contested territories no longer apply, but the Central Powers must maintain at least one infantry in each such territory at all times. Central Powers continue to collect income for Russian territories they control, but do not collect income for any contested territories. So we've got that going on, and in terms of strategy, if it happens to come up as we walk through it, I'm going to assume that Moscow needs to be controlled or contested by the Central Powers, that is a typo. I don't know that it will necessarily come up, but I just want to put that disclaimer out there. That is going to be the assumption. All right, so with that out of the way, I know that took several minutes. I might split this into a couple of videos. I don't want them to get too terribly long, but we're going to start with the Central Powers, and we're going to go through one after the other. All right, so we're going to start with Austria here, Austria-Hungary. Now, we put our units in Vienna over here, and every core Austrian territory is within one space, which means we can reinforce our front very easily. Other countries, Germany, for example, Italy, is another one, are not going to have that luxury. Now, what this changes is if we want to get units over to Venice, or we want to get them up to Ukraine or Poland or whatever, that is going to take us 2 moves, unlike tournament rules where if Ukraine or Poland or Venice were contested, we could move them straight from our capital. And that's something that's going to impact all of the players in one way or another. It's more difficult to get units up to the front, which means we need to make sure we're using them as smartly as possible. For Austria-Hungary, our main areas of defense, or areas we're going to be launching our assaults from, are still going to be here. So we're going to be moving guys here and then into Russia. Probably not so much Budapest, as long as we have taken Serbia and Trieste is doing okay, because we can hit Romania from Galicia. This basically covers this entire flank. As long as we have a strong force here, we can move out from here and conquer or try and contest if necessary. Over here in Venice, that's something that's going to be a little bit tricky. So it is going to take us a little longer to get there, and for that reason, I think that a coordinated effort with Germany is going to be important. Granted, Italy is going to take an extra turn to get up there as well, but I think that we're really going to need Germany to help us out. So we'll probably attack Venice on the first turn, and move guys over to Triolia right here, and then maybe Germany will come down into Switzerland, and we can either move over here to threaten Piedmont, threaten this front with France, or we can move down here, try and keep Italy guessing. We do have our navy here, and we can shovel guys over to try and take Tuscany if necessary. But other than that, I think it's mainly slow. It's just slower. We're not going to do a whole lot with Navy. The fact that this doesn't block movement doesn't matter, because if the Allies move in there, they're not going to be speeding along to go somewhere else. We do need to watch our flanks maybe more than we otherwise would, because if the Allies get down here in Albania, or suddenly they liberate Serbia, if we don't have a force here or here, if we don't have something that we can use to deal with that, we're going to be in trouble. That doesn't mean that we need to keep a lot of forces back, but we need to keep an eye on the Allies, and we need to make sure that we are ready if they try and do something like that. Well, this video is already over 10 minutes long, so I'm actually going to go ahead and stop it and get this one uploaded, and then I'm going to create another one where we're going to look at Germany and the Ottoman Empire. I'll try and get that one up today at least. I don't know if I'll get an Allied video up, but I will make that promise that I will get the Central Powers all discussed today. All right, I'll see you all soon, or you know what I mean. You'll see this video, and I'll get the other one made and uploaded here shortly.